Hi everyone, this is Tom and Jesse Talk Movies. I am Jesse.
I'm Tom.
If you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, you can reach out to us at programs@cshlibrary.org. Please, we love reading. We're very receptive to anything you have to say. So today we're going to be discussing, this is kind of a continuation of last week where we talked about the biggest snubs. Today, this is fun. This is going to be the most overrated.
Yes.
And I don't know about your choices, but it's not necessarily confined to a genre.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, as a little tease, let's see, I have two films. So one is in the category of cinematography that I think is overrated.
This is just subjective talk.
Absolutely.
It's just our opinions on films that we're like, why are they get nominated, and our thoughts.
Absolutely.
And then some.
So you might very well disagree with us, but this was kind of fun to do some research too, because it also kind of jogs your memory as to what got nominated and what didn't get nominated.
Right.
Okay, so I got a few movies here.
Okay.
Do you wanna lead off with?
Yeah, I'll pick. Do you want me to list them all because I have quite a bit, or do you want to go back and forth?
Let's go back and forth.
Okay. So the first film that I think is incredibly overrated, I don't know why it was at the Oscars. This was called Mad Max Fury Road.
Amen.
It's from 2016, so it was at the 2017 Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Picture, Director, Cinematography, Film Editing, Production Design, Costume, Makeup, Visual Effects, Sound Mixing, and Sound Editing.
That is ridiculous.
And it won 5 of those. It won for film editing, production design, costume, makeup, and sound mixing. Oh, I'm sorry, and sound editing. So it was, 6 of them actually. Wow. I think that's crazy. This was a total. I saw the movie. I saw it in theaters, and I just thought it was just another action movie. I mean, this is the 4th one in the series that started in the 70s and then 80s. Mad Max, Mel Gibson. It's like in a post-apocalyptic world. I think it's like in the desert. And I mean, God, like the 4th film, we have Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy in the lead roles. And I don't know what was so special about it. It's a really nice looking movie. It's, the cinematography is good. The sound design is good because it's got a lot of cool music. But Oscar worthy, I don't know. To me, it blends in with a lot of other action movies. I would say, why are we might as well nominate one of the earlier Fast and the Furious films. Okay, decent script, but the movie doesn't really have much to say for itself. It's not one of those oh my God, you've got to see this movie. It is just, oh my God, the script. It's an action movie. Right. And for an action movie, I actually just found it to be quite boring.
I absolutely agree. I thought it was incredibly generic. And if I'm looking back, because I saw it around, what year did it come out?
2016.
2016. So for me, the only thing that stands out, I think the cinematography was beautiful, and I think that it was rightly acclaimed in that area. Right. But in terms of the plot, I just remember driving from point A to point B, and really not a lot of driving,
not a lot of plot going on.
And I'm a car guy, and I was like, wow, this is enough driving around.
If you like seeing people drive through the desert,
right?
But yeah, it was just a boring movie, and it just felt so incredibly random. Okay, cool production design, but by that logic, the new Batman movie should have been nominated for production design. I'm not saying films have to be, reinvent the wheel or everything, but just this particular film blended in with a lot of other action movies, and we've never really seen something like this at the Oscars before. It was just very random.
It was a forgettable movie for me.
Yeah.
I think I remember, you and I discussed it probably pretty recently, after it came out, and you and I said the same thing. We're what's the buzz about?
Right.
And granted, it went through kind of production hell for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. It took a really long time for the movie to get made.
Yeah.
And normally that's pretty an ominous sign. When a movie is taking a very, very long time to be made, that's not typically a very auspicious sign.
Right.
But I was just amazed that and it was pretty unanimously praised, obviously, by the
It
amount of
was.
nominations. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, I don't get it. Again,
Yeah.
nice looking film, sound design was great, but there was no plot.
No plot.
So
Totally overrated. Jesse, what is one of your picks?
okay, so I'm gonna go with the winner of Best Cinematography. This film won in 2010, and that is gonna be Avatar. So Avatar was up against Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, The Hurt Locker, and Glorious Bastards, which was kind of a popular choice, and a film called The White Ribbon. So this for me is going to be, first of all, I didn't really care for the film Avatar. And
me neither.
You and I have kind of spoken off camera where we think that James Cameron maybe visually is a very interesting director, but his plots are overall very simplistic, and they're often retelling of like Romeo and Juliet and Pocahontas, which was kind of what this movie was. But the question that I have, and the kind of, I don't know if you want to call this a concern, but I think that there's like a philosophical debate here, right? That we're talking about what is the cinematography? What are the parameters of cinematography? This film, what would you say, like 80% of it is shot digitally?
Yeah, it's more of an animated film.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is the barometer? What would you measure this movie up against? Would you put it in a category with other films that are 100% live action? Or do you separate it for a film? I mean,
I would put it with that just because of the mere fact that there are like actual humans in the movie. I know I've seen arguments online, people saying like, oh, it should be with the animated films. I don't really agree with that.
Right.
I mean, like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Isn't that
True,
another one?
True.
But I would put it just because it's meant to look more like live action.
Okay.
And I think we can include animated films. I feel like, something like Toy Story is animated. It's all the characters are. That should be in the animation category. I feel something like Avatar. I personally think it should be up against the other ones. But it's funny you mentioned Avatar because that's also on my list of overrated.
I was just it's funny because I recently gotten Disney Plus, so I hopped on and I haven't seen Avatar since it came out. And it's still, for the most part, a visually stunning movie, and mostly when you're working with CGI or computer-generated imagery, what happens is you go back 10 years later and you try to rewatch a film, and often you find it doesn't look so well.
Right.
So Avatar still looked well, but again, my primary concern, I guess, would be is this something that should garner a lot of recognition over something like Inglourious Bastards, or when I think of staples of a particular genre, I think of Western, I think of these long sweeping vistas and plains. I mean, and there's an art to filming movies like that. Not to say that there's not an art in whatever the cinematographer did here, but for me, I'm not sure how comfortable I feel kind of melding the two genres together. One that's really, for the most part, entirely computer animated.
Yes.
With something that's shot on location, and I feel like that's almost another art form in itself. So for me, that is an overrated choice. It's a good-looking movie.
Yeah.
But I happen to really like the way the Inglourious Bastards look.
Yeah.
I would almost maybe have preferred for that particular movie to win.
Okay.
That's kind of where I stand.
I completely agree with everything you said. My thing with Avatar was just that, I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture, and I could understand it getting nominated for visual effects. That's fine. I have no problem with that because, I mean, 2009, that was a big deal. James Cameron doing that kind of stuff. That was cool. But the script itself, it's essentially Pocahontas. Just like Titanic is essentially Romeo and Juliet.
Which I'll get to.
Yeah. So like, I agree. I just think the movie itself wasn't great, but just the special effects is really just where it stands out. And I mean, look at some of the cast in it. Rodriguez, Sam Worthington, like, okay.
Right.
Sigourney Weaver, I like, but like she was so out of place in the movie.
Can we talk about, not to diverge too far, can we talk about Sam Worthington? Because he's not a great actor.
He's not, and he's the lead guy in this movie.
What has Sam Worthington done in between making Avatar and now? Can you think of?
Yeah, he was that.
He was Clash of the Titans.
Yes, and was that Terminator Salvation?
Terminator Salvation, but he's been relatively quiet.
Yes.
But because Mr. Cameron has like 5 sequels in the pipeline, all starring Sam Worthington apparently. This man, he's set for life.
He is set.
So that's my little diatribe.
All
on Sam
right.
Worthington. Sorry.
That's okay. Next up, so I'll go. Choice for overrated. It's a film called The Florida Project from 2017, starring Willem Dafoe. Have you heard of this?
I've seen it.
I hated this movie. This is one of the worst movies I've ever
Really?
seen. Like, I have a list of like top 10 like worst movies I've ever seen, like unwatchable garbage.
You're gonna say pretentious, aren't you?
I wouldn't even say pretentious. It's just okay. So it's just not, I don't think it was a good one. A lot of people liked it, and that's fine. I watched the film right during Oscar time of that year, and I'm like, what is going on here? So it takes place in Florida, obviously, like, but in the outskirts of Disney, like where the parks are.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes place like those, I
Like
guess, run down kind of slum motels outside of Disney. And we focus on a couple characters, a young mother and her little girl, who are living in this rundown motel. It's just really depressing and dilapidated. And Willem Dafoe is the manager of the motel. I don't know why he got an Oscar nomination for this.
I loved Willem Dafoe.
I feel like this is a movie that was shot for $11.
Okay.
They just picked a motel, and we're following this, like, young mom. I'm just gonna say like 21-year-old mother and like really short shorts and like crop top and everything. And her like daughter is maybe 5 or 6, and they're just a little, they're I don't know what the right word is, but they're not the best of society, let's just say. And they're just completely uninteresting, annoying characters. Like, why am I watching these people exist? I don't care for them. I don't care for their struggles. And I'm not saying, and I'll say this all the time, but like, your characters don't have to be good people or, like good looking or like great, members of society. I love flawed characters. I love characters who are like the everyman or, but like these people, there was nothing special about them. And Willem Dafoe, who I think is a fine actor, is just the manager of this motel. And I couldn't wait for this movie to be over. I only watched it because it was an Oscar movie. What did you find special about it?
I see and I understand every one of your points, but for me, Willem Dafoe is the standout of that, because I think that normally you're used to Willem Dafoe as like the bad guy, the villain.
Right.
And this is so antithetical to the role that he normally plays.
Mm-hmm.
What I really like about Willem Dafoe is it's kind of an understated performance.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. While I don't necessarily find the mother and the little girl all that interesting, I appreciated the relationship that Willem Dafoe because he has a little bit
he's
of a
the nice
niche,
guy,
but he's the nice guy, and he does kind of cultivate a relationship with the little girl because he sees the spot that the mother and daughter are in. So I appreciated his performance.
Okay.
I don't know if it was necessarily worth the buzz that it got, because again, it's extremely low budget looking. But I like Willem Dafoe.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. So my next choice, this is going to be overrated. This might be a controversial one. Rocky for 1977.
You want to hear something funny? I've never seen it.
And I recently just saw it myself. So that beat out Taxi Driver. And
interesting.
And I happen to love Taxi Driver. Have you seen Taxi Driver?
Not all the way through.
Okay.
It's one of those movies I have to be in the right mindset.
Okay, understand. But for me, Taxi Driver was a heck of a lot of a better movie than Rocky was.
I would agree.
That's certainly not to sort of undermine what Rocky is, because I know that it's really this seminal sort of feel good. It just transcends like a good sports movie. It's kind of about surmounting obstacles and difficulties in your life. But for me, Sylvester Stallone is Sylvester Stallone in everything, and
he's not a good actor.
He's not a terrific actor.
No.
And again, I think that it's more. It's kind of taken on a life of its own now because of just, there's so many iconic scenes where he's running up the steps and again, I'm respectful of the fact that Sylvester Stallone was really like on the outs, and this was his last chance to make it, and he directed it and produced it and starred it. And there's something that's the American success story. But it just wasn't that interesting of a film. And for me, in comparison, Taxi Driver, what I loved about Taxi Driver is thematically, it concerns loneliness and rejection and disenfranchisement and mental health. And to me, it's so reminiscent of a film that we both like, which was The Joker. And there are so many of those scenes where what I really like is that you're experiencing like a mental breakdown on film, and it's not just about, a director telling you that this person is not well. It's about the building blocks, the constituents of exactly how this person experienced their decline. Robert De Niro's fantastic. It's Martin Scorsese. So, I mean, it's seedy 1970s New York.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff, the way Times Square looks, I mean, it's almost unbelievable.
It almost feels like a period piece, kind of.
Yeah.
Capturing that period.
It is so hard to go back and look at that movie as though like some of these things happened, because I mean, even Times Square in the early 90s wasn't the place that you wanted to be, and you saw these kind of
very different
seedy locales and these pornographic movies like right in Times Square, and it's so atmospheric, and it really just emphasizes, once you put Robert De Niro right in the middle of it, someone that's so imbalanced. I love Taxi Driver. It's one of my top 15 favorite movies. So for me, it's no contest between Rocky. I mean, I really, really like Taxi Drivers.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, boy.
I'm passionate about Taxi Driver.
That's great. Okay, so I'm going to get into some actors' performances that I feel were nothing special and just not good.
Cool.
Get Out 2017. I like the movie. I don't love it. I think the script is pretty well done. Some of the execution I like, some I don't. The lead actor, he was nominated. I am terrible with pronouncing last names. Daniel K. I'll just call him.
Okay. I wish I could help you with the pronunciation.
Yeah, Kaluuya, something like that. I thought his performance in the movie was just dreadful, and a lot of people praised him, and he's just not an interesting character. I think what's going on, the story is interesting. I loved his girlfriend in the movie, played by Allison Williams. I think she is awesome.
She's a great actor.
Catherine Keener and Bradley Whitford are her parents in the film, and it's about a young couple, and the guy is going to meet her parents for the weekend, and they're both from very different worlds, and that's really fascinating. And the movie definitely touches, I mean, it is a racial tension type of movie, so I think it's very fascinating. I think it's incredibly accurate. But just Daniel's performance, the whole movie, I just feel like he's like laid back in the chair and just like, whatever, like just chill. And by the end of the movie, when people are going after him, he does his job, but I don't know what was so special about his performance that any other actor just couldn't have done. There's nothing, it's not like he has this long monologue and you're like tears in your eyes. I'm not saying every person who gets nominated has to be, has to play, Richard Nixon or somebody iconic. He was just an uninteresting, just typical male boyfriend in the film, and I just don't get it. I totally am, for like the film getting like writing nominations. That was totally cool.
The writing was sharp. Jordan Peele he's a good
writer. And I really love that for a horror movie, which never gets attention from the Academy. I think that was really cool.
Yes.
And I think this was an important movie at the time. Like, let's, talk about this kind of stuff. So that's cool. Just don't get the love for the lead actor. I'm sure he's nothing personal against him. I just, and I've seen him in other movies and he's like similar. where it's just he seems like a guy who kind of just fell into act, like John Hamm. Like, why are you here?
And John Hamm's in everything. So I totally get that. So
Okay, yeah.
did you want to go for another choice?
Do you mind? Or?
Go ahead.
So this is somebody who you are quite a fan of.
Please don't say Ethan Hawke.
No, I like her. I don't think it's her fault. I think it's Fincher's fault.
Oh, it's going to be Rosamund Pike.
It's the actress Rosamund Pike. She was nominated for Best Actress for Gone Girl in 2015, but she lost to Julianne Moore for Still Alice. Thank God. Julianne Moore is like top 5 all-time favorite people on the planet, let alone actors.
You're biased.
No, but here's the thing. Still Alice is, I mean, that movie I saw, that was just, I don't really like to admit it, but I was emotional during that film.
Okay.
She played a 50-year-old woman who got Alzheimer's. That's scary. And I thought she nailed it. So Rosamund Pike, she does what she's directed to do. David Fincher, who did
Social Network,
Panic Room, one of my favorite, many other great films.
Alien 3.
Did Gone Girl, that's based off the book by Gillian Flynn. I liked the book. I like Gillian Flynn. I loved Sharp Objects. I loved the TV show. That was excellent. Gone Girl's a really interesting story. And it's so much like the real true crime case of the Scott and Lacey Peters case. I'm familiar with that, but I would totally say this movie was influenced by that. Wife, who played by Rosamund Pike, she was she has a bunch of children's books based on her life. Amazing Amy, they're called. Everybody loves her. She's in the spotlight. She's married to Ben Affleck in the film. Probably his best role because he essentially plays himself.
Well,
you know how in every movie it's like, yeah, it's Ben Affleck, the guy who just shows up, who's always like, oh, what next?
So he just walked into this role.
But he's great in it, and he's blamed for her disappearance, and the media goes nuts. There's like a Nancy Grace type of character, and it's totally a take on how the media blames somebody, and like it's just totally just the media being biased.
Right.
And then I'm trying not to spoil it because I want you to see this movie so bad, so you know what I'm talking about. But I'll just say that, and I'm not one of these people to say, oh, but in the book, this is the one time where I think it applies. In the book, written by Gillian Flynn, the character of Amy is played like just a certain way that makes so much sense for the twist in the end.
Okay.
In the movie, Rosamund Pike plays the character completely different, and it is incredibly, when the twist comes in the movie, there is no surprise whatsoever. It doesn't make, I'm trying to explain it more without spoiling it, but if they had stuck to the personality that the book character, it would have made sense, and I would have liked this movie so much better because it's a great movie. I can't blame Rosamund Pike for it because this is obviously a director's decision because he has to, agree to it.
Right.
So when the twist comes in the film, I'm like, well, yeah, because that's how this character was the previous half. So why am I surprised this is what's happening? If they had just done it and played the character like they did in the book, everyone's jaw would have dropped.
Okay.
And the whole movie is based around this twist. What is the reveal? And it's just, I could go on.
You're setting it up very interestingly.
Okay,
so you're kind of pushing me towards seeing.
I do want you to see. It's a beautiful looking movie. I think it's a long movie. It flies by. It's never boring. You mostly follow Ben Affleck and his sister, who I love, the actress who plays his sister, and Tyler Perry is in it, but he plays a lawyer, and he plays a completely serious character. You would never know it was Tyler Perry. Okay. He was excellent in it. And it's totally the Scott and Lacey Peterson case.
Okay.
I just was so angry that the character was portrayed this way because I'm all for judging a movie based on a movie. Like if it being based on a book, you don't want to go and buy like, oh, they better do this. No, this is one thing where it's like, why did you not do this? It's almost like they make a Romeo and Juliet film and there's no Romeo. Like, why? It doesn't make sense. So I'll just leave it at that. I was very disappointed, but I was super happy that Julianne Moore won.
Cool.
I'll
Okay.
leave rant over.
Very passionate about Gone Girl. I like that.
Yeah.
So my last choice here for one of the most overrated films is going to be, let's see, Titanic,
Oh.
1988, 1998 rather. I'm sorry. It beat out the likes of Good Will Hunting, As Good as It Gets, The Full Monty, and L.A. Confidential.
Mhm.
Now, this so much isn't going to be an indictment on Titanic because, to be honest, I don't have 3.5 hours to watch a ship sink.
It doesn't happen until like the last hour or so, and that's when it gets good.
Even less palatable for me. My thoughts on James Cameron are he makes great looking films, but I mean, substance wise, there's often not a lot there. As we discussed, this is kind of a retelling of like Romeo and Juliet, right? From my understanding.
It's the most uninteresting love story, and I mean, I could go on forever, but I like the movie, but
Okay.
go ahead, please.
I'm going to talk about L.A. Confidential, which is a movie that
Great.
I happen to really like because
I've never seen this.
it's a great ensemble cast and it's a period piece. So you have Kevin Spacey, who's absolutely great. You have Kim Basinger, and you have, I'm drawing a blank now.
Never seen it.
Oh my
Who?
gosh.
What actress?
Actor from Lockout. Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce. How'd
Wow.
you land on Lockout?
Oh boy,
my
that's
God.
where my mind is.
I wish you would see this. We'd be like, oh.
Talk about a non sequitur. Okay, so I happen to really like this. Again, it's more so about, it's just, Danny DeVito's in it also.
Interesting.
It's just a really good cast.
Interesting.
I love the action. It's kind of like a murder mystery. Kevin Spacey kind of plays like a crooked detective-ish. I don't want to give too much away.
So noirish?
It's noirish, and I happen to really like noirs.
Okay, yeah, you do.
So this for me, it's just a film that I really like. I'm not going to get too much into it because I know we're kind of pressed for time. But sorry, Titanic. I would have gone with L.A. Confidential.
Okay,
So,
great. Good choice. Very controversial for
Yes.
sure.
love that.
Couple just quick. Melissa McCarthy was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Bridesmaids. I love Bridesmaids. That's one of my favorite comedies.
yes, I happen to love that movie.
It does an excellent balance of drama and comedy. You know, dark comedy. You know, why the heck was she nominated? She's fine in the movie, but like, I didn't get that. I just didn't get that. I like Melissa McCarthy. I feel, and she plays a silly character in the film. I would love to see her in a serious role. She's gone on to do other serious roles, and I feel like she's versatile. She can do drama, but why are we? It's like an SNL actor, like skit, getting nominated. I didn't get that.
Understand.
All 4 other genres, but it was just like she was in that movie Spy, which was funny, but it would be like nominating her in Spy for that.
I love
It's
Spy.
just Melissa McCarthy just falling off the motorcycle,
right. No,
which
I
is
know.
hysterical. But why is that
It's-
Oscar worthy? And then I'll talk about Parasite. Now, I know in the past I applaud it. I love that foreign movies are getting more attention. I think that's really cool.
Agreed.
I personally didn't like the movie. I'm not even disagreeing with it getting nominated. I think that's great. My gripe is just with the film itself. To me, it is such a mess of a film because it doesn't know what genre it wants to be.
That's a good point.
And I love when films take different genres. Like, I know I'm comparing it to Bridesmaids, but like that's a nice mix of comedy and then drama thrown in there where it's like, wow, I actually feel for the characters. Parasite is a drama. Then for the first half, it's a horror movie for like 20 minutes, and then it'll be a mystery, and then it's horror again at the end.
Absolutely.
And just the switching, the jumping between genres is so there's no transition. It feels like 3 different movies just edited together, and I didn't like that. It left me like, this is messy. Again, love dark comedies, dark dramas. I even don't mind some dark comedy in a horror film, or maybe even a little romance in an action film that doesn't play corny.
Right.
That's fine, but this movie just felt really messy to me, and I lost interest halfway through. They lost me, but I finished it, and I was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That's a good point. And
Mhm.
and I also I had to see this movie for myself because there was so much buzz.
Right.
And you know, tonally, there is a lot
tone,
of
yeah.
sort of discordance. Like you said exactly. I'm not going to say it any better than you did. There's a lot going on in terms of genre bending.
Yes.
And I was interested in the family. I mean, I wanted to see how they were going to infiltrate the richer family's home. And I think it did a pretty good job of establishing characters in that the poverty-stricken family they were kind of interesting characters.
Right.
The third act was it was all over the place. And I wasn't particularly happy with the resolution.
I completely agree.
We can't talk about stuff without really revealing anything, but
Yeah.
I'm like, if the film ended a different way,
Yeah.
I think that would have been more satisfactory, where I would have come away with it overall saying, wow, you know what, I really liked it. But because of the third act just sort of ending the way it did, I was like, wow, you lost me. You
Right.
lost me. And that kind of tainted my overall feelings for it, which kind of took out the enjoyment from it. Really
Awesome.
interesting first and second act.
I
and
was
then it
on
just
board
starts-
the first like 45 minutes. I'm like, I kind of like this. I like the way it's shot. I think the house looks really cool, and I was interested in the rich family that lives in the
Yes.
house. Like, okay, are they hiding anything? What is it? And they were more interesting than the lead characters.
Right. And the fabric of the story is being the way that they set the ploy, the poverty-stricken family sets these traps
Mhm.
into getting the richer family to hire everyone.
Right.
I'm like, this is
It
fascinating.
was smart.
That's really well done.
Mhm.
But then again, when things start to kind of unweave, if you will, the way that things end, I'm like, oh, the movie was so smart to get to this point.
Exactly.
You rushed it.
Yes. Yeah. True. The pacing is very strange in that
Very
movie,
strange.
so.
Okay, cool.
All right,
Anyways,
great, awesome.
Okay, so that's it for this week. Tom and Jesse talk movies. If you have anything to say to us, please feel free to reach out. Programs at cshlibrary.org. So do you want to talk about briefly next week what we're going to end up discussing?
Next week, it's our last of the Oscar talk, the shows. We're going to discuss, what are the Oscars going to look like this year during a pandemic? What are, what movies what are some fan favorites? What's getting buzz? What have we seen? What have we not seen? We're going to talk about some of the categories and so forth.
Sure.
So we'll wrap it up next week. And I think it'll be...
And we'll try to, for anyone that wants to come out and be with us, we're going to maybe apportion a little bit towards the end. If you guys and girls have any contributions, if you have seen anything that you're particularly passionate or dispassionate about, we would love to kind of open the floor up to have a conversation with you guys.
All
if you'd
right.
like to.
Sounds great.
Okay, so we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.